Get ready to uncover truths and reality of today's politics. Here's your host, Lori Mills.
Welcome to another edition of Uncover California. You guys, the news is coming at us like a fire hose. Steve Bannon was released from prison at 3 o'clock this morning, so the honey badger is back, and I'm sure he's going to go on offense. Welcome back, Steve. We missed you. Did anybody see the rally in Madison Square Garden? That was the most amazing rally I had ever seen. So positive, so full of love. And yet the left wing bot media is saying it was like a Nazi rally. We need to remind you, Bill Clinton was in that arena once. So many Democrats. I think you guys had a national convention there once. So stop with the nonsense. Nobody is buying the Nazi thing anymore. So we've got our election next week, you guys. You need to talk to your neighbors. You need to talk to your friends, and you need to tell them to get out and vote. Straight Republican down the ticket. Other than that, last week, as you know, we had a really, really heavy episode with J.J. Carroll, former Border Patrol agent, author, and filmmaker. And we got into child sex trafficking. If you haven't seen the episode, please do and see his documentary, This is Treason. I had another opportunity to debate the Democrats, which you guys know I love to do. So I was on the largest Jubilee middle ground ever, 30 Republicans against 30 Democrats. And I won't tell you the outcome. At the end, there was a vote for who should be the president. You're going to have to watch the episode to see. So on today's episode, I've got a lady who was just fabulous, who is working with abused and battered women to give them a fresh start. So after last week, I figured we need to bring some hope this week. So right now, I want to play a clip from our Jubilee episode where I debated the Democrats. Then we're going to go to a commercial break, and then I'm going to bring in Drew Ortiz from the Summit House. Stay tuned. Years ago, we didn't have this division. What we saw as Republicans starting in 2016 was Hillary Clinton pay for a foreign dossier to set President Trump up for Russia collusion. We went through $40 million of a special counsel. We have had 8 years of lawfare, including the current 700 years they're trying to get him to serve in prison. We've seen assassination attempts. Now, the biggest problem that I see is we've got an invisible fourth branch of bureaucracy that is unelected, that has more power than our elected officials. We've got a media that's lying to the American people on both sides, dividing us. And until we do our own research and we see what's going on for real, we're in big trouble. Donald Trump cannot be bought. Elon Musk he's a billionaire. He's a billionaire. How are you going to buy a billionaire? He's already got the money. Think about the threat to this unelected bureaucracy when you've got people like Elon Musk, RFK, both Democrats, and Donald Trump, who was also a Democrat, coming together to say, you know what? We're going to take on Big Pharma. We're going to take on the military war complex, and we're going to put the American people first.
Hi, this is James from Roughneck Roast. I'm a lover of coffee, country, and Christ. Like many of you, I'm fearful about the future of America if we don't elect President Trump back in office. That's why when you order coffee from roughneckroasts.com, I donate 20% of all sales to the Trump 2024 campaign so we can fight to make America great again. As a thank you for your support, I'm happy to offer you a discount on coffee orders during this all-important presidential campaign. Get 15% off your coffee order today by using the code CALI, C-A-L-I, at roughneckroasts.com. That's C-A-L-I at roughneckroasts.com. Join the Roughneck Revolution one sip at a time with my proudly American roasted coffees. Together, let's put America's greatest president back in the White House and take back our country. That code again is CALI, C-A-L-I, for 15% off your coffee order at roughneckroasts.com. Thank you, and God bless.
Drew Ortiz, welcome to Uncover California. I'm so glad that we're neighbors. People need to understand that I walk my dogs around my neighborhood and I would see you all the time out there with a food, like you were like a food share sort of thing on your driveway. And there would be people lined up and, I just figured you were serving the community, but it's much more than that. Tell everybody about what you're doing and what the Summit House is.
Okay, so I'm very blessed to be here. I'm so glad that you invited me to come. So the Summit House is a home that we facilitate and work with women that have been abused and traumatized. And we also have other programs as well, like you saw is the food share. So that was the food share outside. And we work with the community to just be able to give away food and bring the community close together.
That's a good thing. How did you get into this?
I've always felt so much compassion, and because I have been a battered woman and I have lived that life, that I have so much compassion and a desire to help women because I'm not that woman anymore.
Right.
So I was able to find my way through, but it wasn't an easy process. So when you have been that kind of woman, you want to help other women through.
Okay, so tell me your story. What would you mind getting into that a little bit about your personal story and what happened in your life? And I know it's difficult, but there may be women out there that need to see that maybe they're going through something similar and there is hope at the other side.
So, yes, I can give some of my history. I was married very young. I got married very young, and I married a person that was a little bit older than myself. And I think that every girl has that idea that it's going to be just a wonderful thing. You're married.
Someday my prince will come, Cinderella syndrome.
Absolutely. And I think that that's something, I don't even think that we have been groomed, and it's just something that we believe in. And marriage can be a wonderful, beautiful thing. But this one was not. And quickly I was abused sexually, mentally, physically, and emotionally. And because I was so young and I had that idea of having a perfect marriage, for many women, they don't let people in. They don't tell the truth. I just never wanted my parents to know that I was being abused because I didn't want them to dislike him. Isn't that interesting?
Well, I think that's a pattern with most abusive men and even women. Let's not kid ourselves. There are some women out there that are abusive too.
Absolutely.
But they isolate their victim from their family. And I've seen that with family members where you've got this fabulous relationship with your daughter, son, sister, brother, and all of a sudden they get into a relationship and the contact slowly stops. And they're then alone in these situations. And that's where the abuser wants them, because then they can control them and control every aspect of their lives. I can tell you for family members in my life that I've gone through this with, it is so painful knowing that they're in a very damaging relationship, yet if you try to speak out, a lot of times you get triangulated into the situation and you become the bad guy. Right. Until that person wakes up and gets the strength to walk away. A lot of women never do. And that's the sad thing, because I think the longer you put up with the abuse, the more it becomes normal to you. And the harder it is to get out because your self-esteem goes to the floor. Do you want to get into that a little bit?
Well, you're really saying everything that I would say, to be honest, because it comes upon you quickly. You don't really notice that these things are, talking a certain way to somebody, treating them disrespectfully, then words come in, swearing at somebody. So it's emotional, it's psychological. And then it goes deeper.
Right.
And so for me, there was plenty of red flags. There was plenty of red flags. And I was young, so I just kept fanning the red flags out of my way. Like,
if you love him enough, he'll change.
Yes, is like, it must be my fault. So that's what women think. It must be my fault. And it's not even that you want to put up with it. You just don't know how to get out. Right. And because it's very humiliating, you feel as a woman that it's your fault. There's something that you've done. If you were prettier, younger, thinner, whatever, that this would change. Better cook. And that's not the truth. The truth of the matter is respect. And when you cross that line, it's a scary thing. But I had children young, and I also took my ex-husband's children on from his previous marriage. So I had a big load to carry, and I just ran faster. And when I did finally get out, those were the words. You did hit on that, is he said, I never thought you'd leave. I didn't think you were strong enough. So I did leave. It was really a horrid divorce. A lot of money was spent to... my parents helped me to get my house. But what was interesting is that when you leave that situation, you might think, okay, well, that's over. Okay, and great. Now you're going to go and live a better life. But the problem is it doesn't leave you. It doesn't just go away.
Right.
So you're left with the trauma and abuse. For a mom that's struggling, so this is speaking to women that we help at the Summit House. So for those women, too, is you just work harder because now you're doing this on your own and you've got children to, take care of, and you're financially responsible for that. So until you get the help you need, and it's really psychological, I think you said something else too, is that, so in the embarrassment, when I finally did tell my parents that he had hit me and called me names every day of my life and sexually abused me, they didn't believe me. They did not believe me because they had such a good relationship, because I had kept that intact. See, what you want people to see is different than what's really happening at home. And that's why it's such a slippery slope of abuse, because a lot of times you see a perfect scenario, you think everything looks great. Oh, look they have a wonderful family. And look, they go on vacations, and look at how cute their children are. My daughters were always dressed beautifully. Their hair was French braid. We did everything, we did nice things, but there was so much abuse. And my friend said to me at the end of it, she said, you're about 1 inch big. That's how much it had reduced me. And the fun person that I was, the funny person I was, that had all gone away. And then after that, I was just striving to be able to take care of my family. And then on the other side, he wasn't going to help because he was very angry that I'd left. So he's going to pay me back. So the point being is that I actually was so very traumatized that I didn't realize that I had been victimized, that I had been abused. So I just kept running with a very angry person was in charge then, because when you're beaten down, you become angry about it too.
Well, I think that's part of the process of grieving.
Right.
Grieving a loss, this loss. And I think a lot of abusive women get in the situation where they're in love with what could be, not in love with the reality of what things really are. And I'm so sorry that your family didn't believe you. I mean, they must have seen the change in your personality. And to deny that, I mean, you must have painted a really pretty picture.
I did. And I'm a really good little actress. And, when those are the stakes and your family and all of that. In fact, one time my sister walked in the room and she said, I saw him hit you. And I said, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. And I just went on with that. She knew. And I felt like, I can't let her believe that. My dad finally did believe me. But after, long talks. And then he couldn't believe it. He was so sad.
See, if I was your sister, I would have been at your parents' face. That guy's a jerk, I just would. But that's me. And again, I came from a very dysfunctional home. And when I was a teenager, I ended up, don't even want to get into it. It's a whole different show. Yeah. But I ended up in a situation that no child should be put into.
Right.
On my own at about 14 years old, dragged into the modeling world. And let's just say that is just dark as dark gets.
Right.
And, but at the same time, when you come out and you give your life to the Lord and there's this rebirth in you, God gives you the strength to get through this. Tell me when you really felt that connection to God and God saying, I got you.
That wasn't, would be nice if I said that, I came out of that and then things started to change. I always knew God. I always loved God. But when I was married, anytime I go to church, the abuse would get worse. So, so I didn't go. I stopped going to church to going to where you're around other believers that, that would have a dent into your personal life. But unfortunately, I remarried. And I remarried something worse.
Oh gosh.
I know. So it got worse, and it not only affected me, but he victimized my children too.
Ugh.
So the story didn't get good for a long time. And not only did it victimize me in the first marriage, because my children were not abused in the first marriage, but in the second marriage they were. And so at the end of that, it was horrific. My daughter had been molested by my ex-husband, and I've never told that in this kind of forum. But
I'm so sorry.
yeah, but there was hope at the end of the tunnel because I did come out and I did get help. But I really, honestly, didn't know how much I had been abused until I watched the movie The Maid. And when I watched that movie and saw that it wasn't just like being beat every day, it was the psychological terror and emotional. So when I watched that movie, I was like, oh, hello. I had helped people all along the way because it's easier to help other people than help yourself, to be honest.
Right.
So if you saw somebody being mistreated, I would just go to bat, but not in my own story. So at the end of it all, to speed that up and to tell the good news is that I turn to God. Always I turn to God. I pray to God all the time. But, it doesn't happen like a magic wand. You're not pulled out of the situation just like that. And just like the many girls that I watch that are trafficked, they're not just rescued overnight. It's not one day and they're out of the problem. So it took time, and then it took a lot of work on my part to get help and to, I went to places like Al-Anon.
Right.
And because what happens, 1 out of 4 women are victimized in some ways, abuse, trauma, rape, sexual. I said it in my abuse, I'd rather be slapped than the emotional abuse that I received every day. But either is horrific, any of it. But I just kept going toward God. And so it was because I had grown up knowing God. My parents had raised me in a Christian home. I loved God. But you can love God all you want, but unless you're really willing to throw everything down and say,
I surrender.
What do you want, God? What am I supposed to do? I have children. I don't know what to do. At that time now I had another child. So I had 3. And he was victimized as well. So it just goes on. And so here's the beautiful thing is when it stops. So it can stop and generationally stop.
Yeah, you broke that chain of abuse, that cycle. And, I think it's interesting what you said. Your process with God was a little bit slower. And I don't think that's abnormal. The Bible talks about how, he will smash the clay jar and rebuild you. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you've got to hit that bottom so he can create that person you want to be. But you got to clean the closet, which is never fun.
No.
It's very painful.
Yeah.
And, but once you get through that process, the refiner's fire, you become what God wants you to be. So since then, God has put you on a journey.
Right.
To help these other women. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the Summit House and what you're doing.
So actually, I have another house. And so it started there as a transitional home. And I had a lot of events. I had missionaries come. So that's always been my heart, is about God and how to share in the community. So I always wanted an open house. I'd keep missionaries overnight. They would speak to the community. We'd invite people. We had healing sessions. We'd have a lot of people in to do a lot of things. So it was many different aspects. So after I acquired the Summit House, which wasn't the Summit House, it was a house, it was destroyed. And so it was starting at the ground up. And in that process, the Lord was talking to me and about how many things, and I have to stay really guarded and on track because I could tell you a million things that I see coming out there. And I don't know, but I had gone to the Dream Center in my process of recovery, and just in my church. I went to the River Church, which was like a home church, and we visited the Dream Center. And I always thought, my friend would say, let's go to the Dream Center for church. It's great. And I said, no, I want the Dream Center to be in Simi Valley. I love Simi Valley. I believe that my children are alive because they grew up in Simi Valley. So it's a safe community. It was the third safest in the nation when they were growing up. Thank goodness they grew up there, even though they faced a lot of trials. So when I got that house, I decided to do that, to open it up. And it really happened organically.
Right.
So a girl, somebody said, I think this should be a bed and breakfast. And I'm very susceptible to excitement. So I was like, okay, that'd be great. Let's see.
Well, and you seem to have a servant's heart.
Right.
That's like your gift.
It's a shepherd's, like and a servant and a hostess would be my areas.
It's not mine.
Well, finance isn't mine, but those are the other things. But anyway, so I opened up the house and girls would come, and they would come just spontaneously. I'd interview them. They'd be the perfect fit, and I was able to lead them, and they would have a specialized program. And so I would design that specialized program that they would just soar. And so it was really beautiful to see.
So when you talk about a specialized program, do you want to get a little deeper into that? So maybe there's somebody watching out there that needs to know that there's hope, that they can get through what they're going through. What sort of specialized programs do you do for these women?
So first of all, to address that, there is hope.
Yes.
But you have to talk. You have to say what your problem is. And that's the hardest part. And then you have to be willing to hold somebody else's hand to get to the next place. It's just like a chain. You got to extend your hand and then somebody will pull you up and then it goes like that. So the specialized program is really God designed. That sounds, this is a Christ-centered home.
I totally believe that God gives us missions in life. He's done it a million times with me. Heck, I'm sitting in this chair where I never thought that I would sit.
Right.
Because my mission right now is to tell the truth. That's it, no matter the cost.
Right. Well, thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
So, so when the girls come, they do an interview so I can, see if it's a right fit for them, because there is certain criteria. I take women, and if they have children, they have to come by themselves most of the time. So they have to find somebody. And why do you think that that's important? Because it's important that they get the help, because you can't, when you get into an airplane and they show you when the air mask comes down, it's on you first.
Right.
And then you can help somebody else. If you can't help yourself, if you don't get the help you need, you can never progress. So they come alone, and then by a series of interviews and talking with them, I can kind of get an idea of what they love, what they like. And so many girls have come in, and one was, she was an artist. So immediately, it was just so funny. I had this project that I wanted to draw this picture on the wall of a child running out of darkness and into the light. And the girl said, I think I can do that. Well, I didn't know this girl, and I didn't know she was capable. And I feel like the Lord said, it's a can of paint, so let her at it. So she did. It's a beautiful mural on my wall. It took her 2 hours with makeup brushes and gospel music in the background.
Wow.
And it's gorgeous, and everybody comments on it. So knowing that she was an artist, I just let her free work around the house. If you've noticed things around the house, she did a lot of those creative pieces. And another girl, she was a student. So she said, would it be possible if I went to college here? And I said, yeah, we have a bar. I have a Starbucks bar in the house. And she sat there and she worked on getting her degree.
Wow.
So the specialized program is where they are going to do certain things that are the criteria. We're going to start with Bible study. We meet at the table at 8:00. We work at the ranch. I do have a church that I attend, and I am a partner there at Rocky Peak.
Okay.
And
I've been there before.
Right, it's great.
Although this is my church. I love God speak.
Fantastic. And, I love church, when you get around the body. But they also have a program called Celebrate Recovery. So they take the girls there. And this isn't just to women, but I only work with women. That would be obvious in a home. So it's not co-ed.
Right.
For safety reasons and for their feeling of safety. Then we do outings and learn to have fun. When you're abused, there isn't any fun. If you ask a woman that's been traumatized and abused what she likes to do, she probably won't know. So we get back into laughing. I tell them jokes. I'll look on the internet for funny jokes, and I'll tell them in the morning. Sometimes it's hula hooping. So it just depends on that girl. Some girls love to cook. I am a cook, and I've owned restaurants, but I let them at it, and they really thrive. And so when you let women do what they've lost, and it comes back, it comes on strong, and then they're like released. We also have a butterfly program that I collect the worms and put them in a cage, and then they transition from chrysalis to butterflies, and then the girls get to hold them. It's a perfect example of what a woman is.
That's
and
beautiful.
And they've flown on their face.
Aww.
And so it's such a beautiful God moment that God has, and they get so much hope in that. Little things like that.
You know what's amazing to me is I'm sitting here listening to you, and God uses everything for the good.
Correct.
So though you went through what you've gone through, you're now coming out the other side.
Right.
With this mission that you never would have been able to do unless you went through what you went through. And because you wouldn't have the empathy, you wouldn't have the understanding. So it's absolutely fantastic. Now, I know that you are looking to build an addition, an ADU on your property so you can house and help more women. Where can people go to help you do this?
Okay, so let me just back up and say, excuse me for being a little emotional, but you don't know this, but I have never shared that story with really anybody that's like in this kind of context where it's like.
But you see, by you sharing this, you're going to help other people, because I will guarantee there will be women that are in these situations that God's giving you a bigger voice.
Correct.
And so, you know, we've run out of time. I got to have you back, but I do want people to know about your website. And if there's anybody out there that has money, or you want to help with construction, or you can help with a permitting process so she can build on her property, you guys, these are cases that put your money where your mouth is. Let's help her build this ADU. Talk about that real quick, and let's talk about the Summit House, where they can help you.
Well, we are a 501c3 nonprofit.
Okay.
So you can go to our website, is the Summit House Simi Valley, and you click on it, and it'll tell you everything that I've told. We have a life coach on staff.
Okay.
She's so wonderful in their healing process. She is just the bridge. And she meets with them weekly, but you can go there, and then there is a place to donate. Or you can send it to my address in an envelope, or you can
I probably wouldn't give out your address though.
Right, and it's through PayPal. They can send it to you.
Okay.
So it's through PayPal that they can donate, and that's what it is we want to expand so we can help more women and have more volunteers as well.
Right.
To be able to, be working with these women and gain something too. It's really community.
I want to come over.
Right, community
I totally want to come over
hands.
and help. Right.
And we also have the food ministry that for those that are not maybe in an abusive relationship, but maybe financially in a really bad position.
Right. My oranges are starting to grow.
Fantastic. Well, we have about 40 pallets of food every week, and Grocery Outlet has been so generous to donate it. So it's everything that you don't even need to go shopping if you go there. It's gone in about 20 minutes because people come and they take it. So it doesn't go in the trash. And it goes out and back into our community. So we're doing that. We also have prayer meetings at the house as well. But if you would like to donate, just go to the website.
TheSummitHouse.com.
TheSummitHouseSimiValley.com. You'll see it. It says that we help women through a Christ Center program. You click on it. It's a full, beautiful website. And you can see exactly where to donate. We would really appreciate it because this organization is going to do many things, and it's really expanding and growing to many things. Like, we don't know that it's not going to facilitate trafficked children. We don't know that. We don't know where it's going to end up.
And this is interesting. Before we end this, Simi Valley and Conejo Valley, which I never knew, I've got to have Sheriff Freihoff on this one, is a huge hub for trafficking.
In a million years, I would never have thought. I recently have just gotten with Forever Found, and I'm going through the process of being a mentor in Forever Found. I had no idea. People have spoken, trafficked women in Simi Valley. I could never. I just and in other communities, I don't want to name them. It's huge,
Right.
And you would never think they live. A lot of these women, girls, live at home. They could be 14 years old, and because the internet is so rampant, and that they can be very
Easily sold.
yes, because they
Trafficked,
can't
stolen.
because they can't. They don't want their parents to know that they've gotten involved in something. And so then now they're under a slavery transition
Right.
because they can't tell that they've gotten involved because everybody's going to know. They're going to see pictures, they're going to see names.
And
So
then they
this is-
have them by blackmail.
That's right.
Wow.
And so this is happening. And it's not just that. We've learned that, they're housekeepers, slave labor.
Right.
So it's a lot of ugliness in our world, but you know what? The end of the game, God wins.
God's bigger, guys. Okay, so make sure to go to the summithousesemivalley.com. Give what you can. If you can give $5, great. If you've got the money, come on, guys. Time to put in to a good cause to help women and possibly future children get out of the life of servitude and abuse. Okay? Thanks so much for coming in, Drew.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for promoting the Summit House.
No
in our
worries.
community.
Okay, everybody, we're going to go ahead and take a commercial break. And as I've told you in the past, we're not letting go of January 6th. Stay tuned. I have another J6 defendant on, and we're going to tell his story.
Welcome to the MAGA Mall. We have the largest selection of the finest quality MAGA caps and Trump caps that are made. We have over 250 hats and 1,000 different products in 28 product categories. All the caps are made from premium cotton twill. Everything on them is embroidered. As a matter of fact, in the last election cycle, we donated over 45,000 caps to Trump-endorsed candidates and conservative causes all the way across America. And you can buy any of our products by going to our website. It's at themagamall.com, like on the sign over here, and use promo code CALI, and that's for Uncover California. That will get you a 10% discount off of all of our products and also help this worthy cause. And remember, it's always a MAGA day at the MAGA Mall.
Welcome back to Uncover California. Okay, you guys, I have told you I will not let go of January 6th. I think it was a setup. I think that nefarious things happened. I think innocent people have been persecuted unjustly. I think the Constitution has been violated, especially the Sixth Amendment,
Yes.
where people are supposed to have a speedy trial and a jury of their peers. And everything that I've seen, we've got activist judges throwing the book at people, and it needs to stop. So I'm going to keep telling these people's stories. Right now, I want you to watch a clip. And after that, I'm going to bring in Edward Badalien into the studio, and we're going to talk about his story. By the way, he's the guy that pulled Antifa off the windows. Let's roll. Edward Badalien, thank you so much for joining me on Uncover California. I want the world to know your story. So, what brought you to January 6th that day, to the ellipse and the protests that happened there?
Yeah. So when the election was stolen on November 3rd, we had a watch party actually, and all of us were just like stunned because we all stayed up at night throughout the night pretty much until late, and we saw how Trump was winning. He was ahead, like in Pennsylvania, for example, and then all of a sudden you got these drop of like 400,000 votes in Pennsylvania, and it was like all for Biden, and basically overturned the election. And then when Fox News called I think it was Arizona for Biden, like when it was like 4% of the vote in or something, it was like, so we could see how rigged it was, like in real time. we were just very aggravated at that. We were hoping to have like a nice party and stuff, but it turned into a, like, what are we going to do about this, you know?
Right.
But we really didn't know what to do. But then in December, we started seeing that there was like Stop the Steal protests in DC. And, you know, it was like, because I have been going to rallies and doing activism since like early 2020, when COVID came and we were doing like Save Our Children and the Beverly Hills Freedom Rally nearby here. And I had encounters with Antifa before, and so it aggravated me that, you know, we had that Stop the Steal protests going on, and Antifa was attacking Proud Boys, and I think they stabbed like 4 Proud Boys.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was generally like chaos going on in DC.
I want to stop you right there because I want people to remember what happened the summer of 2020, where Portland was taken over. They did that city of Chaz, I think, in Washington.
Yes.
And I remember, because I didn't know who the Proud Boys were, but all I knew was every time Antifa would show up, the Proud Boys would be there to protect the public.
Right.
That's all I knew about the Proud Boys. And again, because I don't trust the media, because everybody's a fascist, racist, Nazi, according to the MSM. I was like, okay, so they're calling the Proud Boys Nazis, white supremacists. And then I see Enrique Tarrio.
Right.
They got 22 years for J6 when he wasn't in Washington, D.C., and he's a black man, and they're calling him a white supremacist. We live in the upside down. So you're mad that they stole the election. I personally think they stole it by 1,000 cuts.
Yes.
The 51 intel agents saying that Hunter's laptop wasn't real. Them shutting down the counting because there was a toilet leak in frickin' Georgia. Kicking all the observers out. The abuse and the lying and the mass mail-in voting, which I can attest to because I've been walking precincts. Our elections and the mass mail-in voting is not safe and secure.
No.
Bottom line, I have found people that it is stated by our county that had not voted in the last 2 elections, 25% of those people have voted by mail and their votes haven't arrived. So let's get back to you, though. So I get where you're going with this. You were angry that the election was stolen. And you, to this day, still believe that. And you have the constitutional right to believe that. And anybody that says otherwise, pound sand.
Right.
Okay, so talk to me how you got to D.C. Like, how did that all happen?
So then we saw that Trump was basically inviting people to go on January 6th and to his rally, essentially at D.C. And we wanted to go see him speak. That was the plan. And then if, you know, Antifa was going to counter protest and attack us like they were in December, we were gonna, you know, fight back against them. Because, you know, in my trial, they made a big deal about me bringing weapons or whatever.
Okay, well, let's not go there yet.
Okay.
So you go there for the rally.
Yeah.
And you're there, you're with everybody. From the other J6ers I talked to, it was a happy, festive, just like being at any other rally. It wasn't hateful. There weren't people being violent.
No, it was like a picnic.
Right.
Yeah. That's
and
what
so
it felt
when
like.
President Trump said, go peacefully and patriotically walk to the Capitol, did you see that as a call to attack the Capitol?
Not at all. Because first of all, all of us were unarmed. You know, we weren't expecting any sort of like violence to happen during the day. And we knew we were going to go through Secret Service, you know, security screening. So none of us brought any weaponry at all. We were just all there to see Trump speak. And then he had this idea to, you know, walk over to the Capitol and peacefully and patriotically, which is totally normal. And so.
So you get to the Capitol. What happens?
Well, it's very important that walk between from the stage to the Capitol. I started noticing that there was people dressed in black that were not really like, you know, chanting with the crowd or interacting with people. They were just trying to push their way through the front.
See, I had video of these people changing into MAGA gear.
Yes.
Okay,
under
so
the
go
tree.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I tried following them, and then I lost sight of them, but I did end up towards the front of the crowd as we were approaching the building, and the building was draped basically with people. Like it was just an ocean of people.
Watch your hand.
Oh, sorry. It was like an ocean of people just covering the building. And at the very top on the ledge, you saw a line of officers with their guns, but they weren't fighting.
Was it fenced off? Did you see
No, there
any
was no
signs that
fences.
said
No.
you cannot, you're trespassing, do not come in here?
No, it was just
so it was open and you walked.
Yeah, it was a continuous group of people. There was no signs or fences or anything like that.
No police told you to leave.
No. The police were just standing around the building, and they weren't saying, they weren't even interacting with the crowd at all. From my perspective, as I was walking towards the Lower West Terrace, and then as I climbed up the stairs and got to the top of the bleachers, because I set up a bunch of bleachers for the inauguration, and when I was on the top, then I started noticing that there was these people near the windows that were trying to break through the windows. And what I saw from a distance was a guy with a sledgehammer standing on the ledge and like trying to smash the window with a sledgehammer. And then the Trump supporters detained him, the actual crowd, and they like crowd surfed his sledgehammer away.
And they were all screaming Antifa, Antifa,
And that's when
Antifa.
Exactly. That's why I started hearing these chants of Antifa, and I walked towards them because I wanted to do something about it, but like we were unarmed, and they had hand weapons. They had, like you can see in the video, they had ice pick and billy clubs and like metal bars and a sledgehammer. But before I got to the group, they had already disarmed the sledgehammer guy, and they were holding him by his like arms and legs. And I walked past that scene, and I looked at him, and I'm like, and I saw his hat hanging out of his pocket. I'm like, I told him, put his hat on. And they put his hat on, and it was a beret, like a French style beret. And I'm like, this
Trump supporters don't wear berets.
No, he looked like
we are not Trump supporters if we're wearing a beret.
he looked like Antifa, like how Antifa shows up to their rallies. And I'm like, this dude is an Antifa, like French postmodernist style, like. And then so I realized that these guys were not with us. And that's the guy that ended up admitting actually that he was caught, that he had a hard time pulling off the act, that he was paid to protest, and he failed in his mission.
Roll that tape for us, Eric.
Leader McCarthy, the leader in the House, said to us
Look, I just left the protest at the Capitol building, and I got a big bruise on my leg. I had a difficult time pulling off the act that I was paid to do. And I'm making this video because I want to confess that I was paid
because you'd also told them to come and be wild. And I hope that's not too philosophical
to pretend to protest
That's a great question.
today.
You know, in my experience, I've worked at the agency for 33 years, and
I can't say by who, but I will just say that it's a
these kinds of situations that I watched in other countries.
organized effort.
Where mobs.
Wow, that's just insane.
Yeah.
So this guy's admitting that he was paid to be there, but doesn't want to say who paid him to be there.
Right. That would be a step too far. I think whoever it is, if it was the feds or whatever, because I know the feds paid two people against me in my case, like Gabriel LeBaron and Brenna McCalca. They got paid by the government to provide information against me. Probably so they wouldn't get charged themselves because they were at January 6th too. But anyway.
Okay, so you pull these guys off the window.
Yeah.
And I noticed the woman that was there. She actually ended up almost dying, getting sucked into the tunnel situation. I remember seeing her story on the War on Truth movie.
Mm-hmm. Gina?
I believe that's her name.
Yeah, she actually is the one who recorded the angle.
And they beat the heck out of her and sent her to jail too.
Yeah, they hit her with 8 charges, but she made a mistake where she went and pled guilty, like an open plea, and then to reduce her sentence, they like basically forced her to testify against me at trial.
Wow.
Yeah.
But see, that's what I think that we've seen is basically an abuse of power where they are basically telling people, unless you do this, we're throwing everything at you.
Yeah.
And part of the problem with that as well is, these cases are expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Attorneys are expensive if you can get an attorney, from what I've seen.
Yeah.
For a lot of these cases. And once they go for you, it's over. It's over. You either plead or you're going for the maximum charges against you.
Even if you win the case, like I ended up winning eventually, but the process.
Well, let's get there.
Yeah.
Let's stay in line where we're at because we can go in a million directions.
I know.
Okay, so you're up there. You pull the Antifa guy off. Then what happened? Where did you go?
Yeah, so when they were chanting Antifa, at these people, I realized, okay, we have to do something to stop them. So I went up to that group and I disarmed the dude that was breaking the window. That he had replaced Sledgehammer Guy, and he was like the next guy in line to keep trying to break it from this little group of agitators. And I disarmed him and I brought him down. And then his little group right there of window breakers, they started like shoving me around and pulling my hat off and my mask and my glasses, and they were like, attacking me. So I told them, I'm like, look, we're not here to destroy the building. Like, we're here. I said, we're here for the traitors, which the government tried to make a big deal out of. But my whole idea was like, okay, let's say these guys are not Antifa or feds, they're actually Trump supporters, which they're not. But let's say they were. I'm trying to, say something to de-escalate them and get their mind off of this vandalism, And so what happened was basically none of those guys got arrested.
Of course not.
And so nobody can find them, supposedly. But they arrested me. And then they tried to use that against me and say, at my bail hearing, they're like, oh, he was violent against other rioters. He's a violent guy. He shouldn't get bail. Like,
okay, so let's slow down.
Yeah.
Were you arrested that day?
No.
Okay, so tell me about the raid on you. Like, you were at home. What time was it?
Yeah.
And what happened?
Yeah, so we went home and I did that InfoWars interview on January 7th, and completely thinking that I hadn't done anything wrong, because I didn't.
I was bummed that the debate on this floor was stopped. I'm going to be honest with you. When I saw the breach, I'm like, no, because it stopped the debate on the floor, which I think was the goal.
Right.
They didn't want the
Exactly.
fraud being discussed on the floor. And then once that happened, everybody went, oh, and caved.
Yep.
But go on. So
That was their whole goal.
you do InfoWars.
Yeah, and then
on the 7th.
I identify myself essentially in the video. I wasn't trying to hide or anything. And I went home and
We're in California. Where
California
are you?
here, yeah, in the San Fernando Valley. And but it took months actually. I didn't think I had done anything wrong. So in April 1st, April Fool's Day, they raided me, the FBI with the SWAT team.
What time
LA SWAT
was
team,
it?
At 4 a.m.
Okay, so you're in bed, you're asleep.
No, I wasn't actually. I was staying up late. It was me and my girlfriend. We were at home. We were just like watching movies and stuff.
Till 4 a.m?
I know, yeah, we were.
Good relationship there.
I'm a
Gosh,
night
us
owl.
old people are in bed by 10.
No, I'm definitely I'm a night owl for sure.
Okay.
But I was in my underwear and t-shirt, and I hear this knock on the door, loud banging on the door, like, Edward Badalien, are you in there? Come outside. And I could hear I think they had a drone in my patio, because I could hear like the sound of a drone. So I walk up to the door and I'm like, hey guys, I'm here, like chill, and I like carefully open the door, and there's 6 SWAT team members with AR-15s like pointed at my face. And they're wearing forest camo for some reason.
And it's just so unnecessary.
Yeah, it was so over the top and goofy, like yeah. And they're screaming at like multiple commands at me. They're like, put your hands up, put your hands behind your back. Do you have any weapons? Turn around, like all this stuff all at the same time. And so I'm like waving my arms around, confused. And they grabbed me and slammed me up against the wall. And they're like, I'm like, I'm sorry guys, your commands were very confusing. And he goes, walk forward. Was that confusing? I'm like, no, that wasn't confusing. And they actually like laughed a little bit. But anyway, so they took me like to near the dumpsters are in my apartment building, and they're like, and they double cuffed me. So they put 2 cuffs on me, and it like separated the tendon in my thumb. So I had like neuropathy for a while from that. But he was cuffing it so tight, and I'm like, guys, it's like 4 a.m. right now. I don't want to scream in pain, but because the neighbors are going to hear me, but like this really hurts.
They want the neighbors to hear you.
Right.
They want that spectacle. They
Yes.
want that perp walk.
Exactly.
They've done it to so many J6ers that I've talked to. It just such unnecessary force.
Yeah.
So go on.
And I told them at some point when they were trying to interrogate me, I'm like, thank you for not doing me like Roger Stone and having like CNN cameras outside. And they chuckled at that too. But so an FBI agent came over, and he when I was pleading because I was in pain, he actually took one of the cuffs off. They were playing like good cop, bad cop. Like the SWAT team were like,
of course,
abusive, and then the FBI guy is like nicer supposedly. So I would be comfortable probably with him. Yeah, they sat me down on the ledge, and I'm looking at these SWAT officers, and they're standing over me with their guns, and I'm like, which one of you? Because when he was double cuffing me, I said that, he's like, I'll let you know when I care. like very rudely, And so when I was sitting down, I'm like, which one of you said that? Which one of you said that you don't care? And I'm looking at them, and they're all, and one of the guys on the left side with his gun, he's like shaking. Like
like they're freaked out that you're just some freaking terrorist that you're not.
Right.
That's happened to several of the J6ers I've talked to, that these officers are so triggered.
Yeah, absolutely. It's
that
weird,
it's insane.
bizarre.
Well, they saw the narrative. They saw those cameras perfectly placed in certain places to create the narrative.
And the officers like Fanon going on CNN and calling us evil terrorists. And and that's who they believe. Not all of them, but some of them. And I'm looking at them like, it was you, wasn't it? It was you. You're the one who said you don't care. I'm like, that's really good that you're in a position of public safety and you don't care. And everyone was like, went silent after that, because they know it was like I'm a patriot. At the end of the day, we were like back to blue, and
the Republicans have always backed police.
Right. And this guy is like being abusive, and I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it embarrassed him. Hopefully it did, in front of his peers. But yeah, so then they interrogated me. They took me back inside. Well, actually, before that, they took my mom out of the house too. She lives there, and they pulled her out by her hair.
Your mom by her hair?
Yeah.
See, that's what I've heard a lot too. Is they've been really abusive with people that weren't even there.
Right.
Like I heard a story about a roommate that was thrown against the wall in front of his small children.
Yep.
Guns in the kids' faces. It's just, this is insane. Okay, so you get arrested.
They came with a search warrant, so they didn't actually arrest me that time.
Okay, so they did the raid where they took all your stuff.
Yeah, they took my stuff. They took it was an electronic search warrant, but they took like irrelevant things. Like they took like a microphone that I had for some reason. They took my paintball gun, which is completely irrelevant, and then they brought it out of the evidence bag at trial like it was a smoking gun, even though it had nothing to. It was never brought to DC. I had nothing to do with it. That's just one of the many irrelevant things that they brought up in court, and the judge allowed it.
Okay,
but yeah, so I got raided, and then I didn't get arrested until August. Like months later, they finally charged me, indicted me, along with my co-defendants, DJ Rodriguez, and then at that time it was redacted, the third co-defendant. And then eventually we found out that they were talking about Swedish scarf guy who we had traveled with, we traveled back with, not we didn't go there with him, but he was fighting police in the tunnel. And
did you fight any police?
No, I didn't fight any police at all. I only had one interaction with the police. I should probably mention that too. Like so after I disarmed the guy breaking the window, I went to the balcony on the front of the Lower West Terrace, and I was looking at the crowd, and I was telling him like, "There's nowhere to go here," because I was assuming we were going to walk around the building.
It seemed to be like, if you're front row at a concert and everybody's crushing you forward.
Yes, exactly.
Is what it looked like to me.
Like 100,000 people,
moving
pushing
forward.
And I'm like telling him, "Go around. Like there's nowhere to go here. We're stuck." And obviously no one was listening. I was like screaming at a crowd of people, and they weren't listening.
Well, they beat Roseanne Boylan to death.
Yeah, so at the tunnel, they beat Roseanne Boylan to death. We didn't know about that until later, but we did hear about Ashley Babbitt getting shot.
Right.
And that news was spreading through the crowd. But yeah, so I couldn't tell people, like no one was listening for me to tell them to go around the building. So I gave up on that, and I went back towards the tunnel, towards the window, and I saw that these Antifa guys, or these infiltrators, they could be feds, were successfully broke through that window, and they were inside, like breaking the furniture and handing it out as weapons and stuff. Like you can see that they're dressed in black. They're not even, some of them weren't even trying to hide. But yeah, so I went back to the window, and I wanted to go inside to stop them, but I knew that you're not supposed to jump through the window. But then the cops started launching gas bombs into the crowd, and I was stuck between the gas bombs and the window. And so I ended up jumping in, me and my co-defendant and a bunch of other people actually at that moment.
Just to get away from the gas.
Yeah, and you could see in the video that we're all coughing, like because we were suffocating. But when I went inside, I was like trying to fix the furniture that these guys had broken, and I was telling them to not break anything, just look for an exit and let's get out of here. And then so for 4 minutes I was inside, and they sentenced me to for 4 years for 4 minutes. It's ridiculous. But so then an officer came to the window, and he's like, let's evacuate. Like, let's get out of here. And so I immediately went to the officer, and he was, as he was helping me down, I told him, "Officer, the only reason I jumped in was because of the gas bombs." And they never brought that officer. I told them about it too, and they never brought that officer to trial. Like you were talking about a Sixth Amendment violation. One of the Sixth Amendment provisions is that they're supposed to bring all the witnesses that are in your favor to trial.
Well, we've seen what they've done with the evidence for defendants in this case. They freeze frame videos to make things look worse than they are.
Yep.
I know they did that with John Strand, where he was actually cheering on the police. Go, we're with you. We backed the blue. And what they did was they froze an image like that, would not let them play the video, and said that he was being very, very
encouraging
harassing.
the rioters.
Exactly. Okay, so
they did the exact same thing to me when I was on the stand. They played a video. They're like, "Oh, see, in this video, he is waving in rioters." Like they were trying to say it was my arm going like this to wave them, and I'm like, I knew that was not true. I'm like, stop that video. Hold on, rewind it and zoom in. And they zoomed in, and I'm like, that's my left hand. You could see my palm facing towards the camera. I'm like, that's my left hand waving the riders away from the tunnel, because I was telling them, like, don't try to go in. Stop trying to break through the police line. So yeah, they absolutely will. And so they basically lied, and the judge didn't do anything. She didn't care. She just let them lie, trying to say that I was waving in rioters when I was doing the exact opposite.
Okay, everybody, that's it for this week. But I do want to finish Edward's story. So tune in next week for part 2 of Edward Badalian's story on January 6th.